you go. We see the Earth. You got it.
Hey there from Area 51 Raceway, and I'm here um, tuning a Sideways car. So, um, out of the box, I know this has been talked about a lot on live streams and stuff. Basically, out of the box, what we really want to do when we get the car is make sure that everything is tight, screws, grub screws. Make sure, your gear lash is tight and your wheels are on. 'Cause sometimes this does happen when you get cars and things are loose because it's just part of manufacturing. So it's not a big deal. It's expected that you do take this apart and look at it. So what we have here is what I've done is greased the gearing here, and then I've oiled everything up to make sure everything's good in the back here. And also what I've done is I've trued the front tires, and this is an option. You don't have to do it if you don't have a truer. You can still put them on there. Truing them does help, you know, immensely with just a little bit of handling. Well, I would say it does help with handling, period. And but if you don't have the truer, it's not a big deal. You get one later on and do truing. So I've lightly trued these, and I also have added some floor shine to it, which is basically floor wax to make these front tires real slick so that they slide. We don't want any grip here on the front that causes deslotting. Then what I've done is I've loosened the pod screws. So there's 5 of them. So these on the side, I take them out because I want the pod to be able to move back and forth, and I don't want this restricted. See how I'm moving that? I don't want this to be restricted, so I usually leave them out and only leave 3 screws. That's just me. You have to experiment on your track, but I just prefer it that way. And then what I've done is, you can see here real closely, I have put tire tweak on here. So a lot of this was kind of brought up on the live. Why do you put that on there and so forth. And so here's what I used. I used tire tweak, and all I did was put a real light coat, and you could see that it's absorbed it very well in the tire. And what this does is this gets the tire nice and lubed up. It absorbs into it, and then when you clean it with naphtha, it softens it, and then this becomes very, very pliable and sticky, kind of like a gummy bear. Which is a good thing because that means the car is really going to grip the track. Now these are medium type hardnesses on tires, so there are different companies that use what's called Shore, which is the durometer of the hardness of the tires. So these would be, I believe, I would say Shore 22, maybe less, Shore 20. So the lower the number, the softer the tire. The higher the number, the harder the tire. So Slot It does use Shore numbers. NSR doesn't. They use names for their tires like Ultra Grip, Evo, and then Sideways will use soft, medium, and hard. So with these are medium. And as you can see, I have the Ferrari 512 DD, and I've tuned this car. And one thing, when you start going with a softer tire, and these are actually pretty to me, they're pretty. They get pretty soft once I start breaking them in and rolling them on the track. For example, this Ferrari 512, this one right here in particular, uh, I had to really, when I started gripping, I had to really start not making the pod screws as loose. This one's a little too loose actually because I had it tighter. I had to take it off to see some. So when you get tires that start gripping, and you could see here all the rubber, how it's starting to, you know, make little balls, which is a good thing because you'll see it in the back of the car on the inside. That means the sucker's gripping. You'll have to start tightening everything more. So as you run the car, having a loose body, too loose, this may judder around because this thing is starting to grip. And also you can see I put tape here because this acts like a little bit of a shock absorber when you're going around corners. And it'll also eliminate most of the fishtailing that happens on long cars or any car that's starting to fishtail. When you start taping across here, this will kind of limit the amount of movement the pod will do. It still has movement, but it'll kind of react a little bit better. As you can see, it'll act like a shock absorber in a way. And of course, putting your uh, axle height is important. Also, free spinning like that is really important. And this car right here took a little while to get done, but it runs real well, and it does real well on the track for being a long car as it is, because this is a long car compared to this one. So this is the Moby Porsche right here, and we'll get this on the track and I'll show you how it handles. And through the process of doing this, if you do get it out of the box, going back to just truing the tires and checking everything and treating the tires and making sure your axle height is proper, because this is a little too high. We want this to go down a little, and I want this to be barely touching. As you can see, this was, when I got this car, it was way up in the body, and I didn't want that. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to get this body on, get my float set. I won't tape the pod. We'll run it on the track and see if it fishtails a lot. And you'll see when I put a piece of tape how much it'll kind of improve the handling as well. Because these tires get really grippy, and you start getting a lot of more, how do you say, more issues, because you can't leave everything as loose, because everything will just judder around, because this is grabbing and it's making the car chatter, and then that's when you have to kind of tighten things up. So let's go on and let me adjust this front axle, and we'll go on to the track. All right, here we are. Got the car on the track. We're at 11.1 volts. Let's give it a whirl. And just like that. See, we have a problem. Now what we'll do is we'll go over there and bring the car back, see what's going on. It may be a fluke. Let's try it again. Now we see that we probably have too much pod is what we're going on there. So what I'll do is I'll tighten the pod screw in the front, because as you see, the pod was pretty loose. And again, these are grippy tires. Once they start gripping more, you're going to see problems like that. So let me go grab it and do some more adjustment. Hey!
Emotional damage.
There you go. See, we got, a couple more issues. Now we got it to de-slotted up there. So again, now the braids may be pretty stiff, and I need to push them down a little bit, because you got to remember, if the braids are really stiff on your guides, that it will lift the body up more, and that's when it will pop out. Now I don't have a slot invasion guide on this, and I've been pretty lucky with the regular sideways guide. So what I'm going to do is, you know, check the braid, make sure it's, stuffed down a little bit more, and see if we get a little bit of that not popping out, and then tighten the pod screw a little bit more in the front. Now what we have here, and we're going to go to the other camera, is that what I've done to improve that, as you can see, it didn't de-slot as easily, and we're going to go there and show you what I am talking about in a sec here. So give me a sec. All right, so here, what I've done, now you saw it kind of de-slotted a lot, when it popped off and then it came off. So what I did is that I pushed these brushes down more. So these are pretty stiff. So when you have these sticking up too much, like higher than what it is right there, because I had to push these down and push them kind of like forward a little to flatten them out more, because these are pretty stiff. And you could change these to a copper one or something softer, and it would help. Now this will push the body up, the chassis up, and that's what you get that popping out. So remember, sometimes the simple things will help you out. And then right there, you can determine if you need more. I tighten the pod screw here more, and you can see that you can hear the car is more chattery. So what I'll do is I will tighten like a quarter here in the rear, and the quarter in the front. I still want some body float. It doesn't take much with these cars when you start getting the grippier tires. You can see how loose the back here is right here. And then what I'll do also, I experiment by just turning in a quarter turn at a time and seeing what I get out of the car as I run it on the track. This is the one thing that I wanted to show you. So when you look at the front of this car, see how those tires are? That's kind of, I lift it up a little. That's kind of where I want my front tires right there. I could probably go a teeny bit higher, but I think I'm fine with that. That's what you're looking at, is to make sure that they're barely touching. That is kind of really what you're looking at. Like, you see the little gap there, maybe touching just a teeny bit too much. But again, I could adjust this by going up on these grub screws and getting my final, like, where I want it. It's not bad where it is, but I could probably go a teeny bit higher. And we'll do that and then throw that on the track. And again, all I do is adjust it from my grub screws down here, little at a time, and from up here, make sure that this is, straight across. You don't want it crooked and in one wheel touching and the other wheel not. So you got to really look at that when you put it on the block and look at the car and see where it's at, like that. That's the important part right there. You're wanting to make sure that those are where they should be at. And it doesn't look too bad there. I may just end up leaving it, but again, that's one of the real key parts of the front, tires. And you want them to barely just touch on the block like that. And that's what the way it's going to be on the track. Now, of course, my track ain't perfectly straight, so it may be a little different. Um, when it's on there, but as long as the wheels are, rotating and they are, get grabbing, you're not grabbing, but acting as outriggers when you go on the corner, which are touching and then rolling. That's good. Having them sucked up too high, that's not good, because then the car teeters and it's going to end up deslotting, and then you're just going to get frustrated. So let's go back to the track. Well, let's put the body on first and go back to the track, see what she does now. But I didn't like how it looked,
Get it
so
right,
I
moron.
adjusted it up a teeny bit more. So I'll show you again what it looks like. And I think right there is pretty good. You see where there's a little gap in between the block there? That's exactly what you're really looking for right there. Now, I know the weight of the body will go on this and we'll push them down a teeny bit, but I think we're pretty good where we're at. And I am putting a little pressure on this. As you see, as I let go of it, comes up. But with the body on, I think we're right there where we want to be. And that's the gap I'm looking for myself in particular for my track. Now, maybe different from other people's tracks. So, but we'll put the body on and see what it does. Okay, back to the track. Here's again more trial and error. And see, this is the patience part. You go back and forth with this, back and forth, until you find the sweet spot. You're basically trying to find the sweet spot of your slot car for your track. So, and this is what I do with these cars. And this is the fun part for me, is just getting them to the point and then just enjoy driving them and getting some good times on the track. So, now we've done some more front axle adjustment. I also lubed the axle. I didn't do that before. So I lifted up just a teeny bit. I mean, it was less, maybe a quarter of a turn up. And so I made sure that the braid is pushed down, and we're going to give it a whirl again, see what she does, and get these tires warmed up and breaking in. You see, we got still fishtailing there because the long-tailed car. A little bit better, though. It's not deslotting as before because I pushed the braids down more and tightened the front pod screw a little bit. And I think the body float is fine because these cars like the screws a little bit tighter than normal than a super loose body. Because we got some real grippy tires here. These medium tires are pretty grippy. I can imagine the soft ones being more grippier. And there we go. And then the fishtailing is getting an effect there. So now what we're going to do is I'm going to put strapping tape on this, and to kind of give this of a more of a cushion for the pod, and also to kind of eliminate that fishtailing. Now those tires are warming up, and it could be a little bit dirt on there. I could clean it up just a tiny bit more naphtha and then go back on there. So let's do that real quick. All right, we got some strapping tape on there, and I tightened the rear pod screws a teeny bit. And let's see if we calm the fishtailing a little with the strapping tape over the pod where I placed it. I've also cleaned the tires, so I'm maybe a little bit slicker than usual. So we'll let them warm up a little. Once you get a couple laps going, it'll warm up. See if it'll calm down. It has calmed down a little because the car straightens out as you come around the corners. It does whip back in the straight. A little bit fishtaily still, but not as bad as before. And the car is handling a little bit better. We'll have to do a little bit more work, but again, this is what it is when you play with these cars. A little bit more tweaking here. A small movement of the screwdriver will change a lot too, and you'll see it on your track. But so far the car runs really nice, and it's pretty fun to drive. This is a nice chromy looking car. It reminds me of the Hot Wheels Super Chromes, and I think that's pretty cool. All right. All right, let's head over back to the bench and take a look at, kind of what I did with the strapping tape. Alrighty, we're back at the bench and take a look at the car. And basically, what I've done is put strapping tape here. I probably could have put a little bit of a longer piece, but I think I'm okay there. Um, and then again, this acts like a shock absorber. I'll probably will tighten the back screws a little bit, but all in all, the car does real well. Just like this one right here. Same thing I did with this car. Everything has to be a little bit tighter tolerances with these sideways cars because once you start getting tires that grip better, you start running into issues where chattering and just traction issues because they're just really grabbing and then it just shakes the crap out of the whole car. So I find that you on my track you tighten these up a little bit more, and then of course strapping tape because you're starting to get more traction. That it calms it down and again acts like a shock absorber as it goes around the corners to help it. Now this one is still a little bit kind of fishtaily, so I'll just keep working at it. And again, this is what the tuning process is. So you just got to keep going over and over and over and over and just finding the sweet spot. Some cars will take 15, 20 minutes. Some will take an hour or two. So you just gotta have patience. But really, Sideways Cars is a car that I think that's really flies under the radar. I have four of these. I have a Lancia, the BMW, and this Ferrari 512. And this one right here is really pretty. I'm going to clean it up with a rag. And of course, you can see your fingerprints on this, but it's a shiny car. I think it's really cool. I like it. Um, really, really, really nice car, the Moby Dick. It's a cool Porsche. But anyways, this is just showing you a few things what I do to tune on the track. Out of the box, you could do this or you could do light tuning and then from there on go to more advanced stuff. And I didn't put any weight on this because I don't feel it needs any weight. Maybe I could put some weight in the back because it is fishtailing more, which is a possibility. But I'll work with the screws a little and stuff and see where I get it at. Because this Ferrari here doesn't fishtail as much because I had to do more work on it and there's no weight on it. So if I do need weight, then I will probably put it uh probably in front of the motor. That's probably the only spot really I could do it. I mean, I could put it on the body, but I don't really like adding weight unless I really need to. Some cars work really good with weight, some don't. It just depends on your track and how it's set up and how you tune your car to the track. So that's it from Area 51 Raceway. I hope you enjoyed this video, and as always, you take care and have fun racing.